Hey guys, and welcome to a new video on Real Rugby Only. I was very happy to see that my video yesterday did really well. You guys, especially South Africans, really enjoyed it. I was talking about how South African rugby, I suppose, is a problem for other nations because they are dominating. And what's even scarier to me is that I don't think it will end anytime soon. And I'll tell you why. Okay, I'm gonna make this video really interesting because a lot of people don't quite understand why South African rugby is different. And I'm speaking to all kinds of fans from the Northern Hemisphere, the Southern Hemisphere. South African rugby is different. It's different. And I'm not South African. I'm French and I'm English. And I root for those two nations. And I wish for the day where when the Boks play against England or the Boks play against France, it will be a very tight 50-50 contest, which I don't think it will be for the years to come. I just don't think that any team, maybe the All Blacks, I really look forward to this summer series. I think that's going to be super interesting. But apart from the All Blacks this summer, because the All Blacks, you know, they remain the All Blacks, right? You can never underestimate the All Blacks. They can do stuff that no other team can do on their day. And that's why I think it will be a very interesting series. And I can't wait for the first test. That will be super interesting. You see, a kid that grows up in South Africa today doesn't have the same amount of opportunities that a kid that grows up in France or England has. And that's just due to the social economic standpoint of the country, right? South Africa is just how it is, right? It's behind in terms of, you know, the economy, people's purchasing power, etc. Not every kid that grows up in South Africa makes it in life, right? There's a lot of struggle. It's not an easy place to grow up, I suppose. Now, you may think that I'm wrong and that I'm talking cack, as you say. But I just think that when you're born in South Africa and you are born into a rugby-loving culture, your family plays rugby, your friends play rugby, and you see the Springboks at their height right now. Kids between the age of 10 and 15 are seeing the Springboks dominate world rugby. You know what their dream is, guys? Their dream is to also have that Bok jersey on them and to play at the highest level for their country. I have seen so many stories of, you know, kids grinding rugby to make it big, and there's no other place in the world where there's this rugby culture. Even in New Zealand, people, you know, of course people want to play for the All Blacks, but not as much as the Springboks. The legacy that the Springboks have is quite scary. And that's why I think for the decades to come, there's no one that can actually stop South Africa. Unless something changes within South Africa, within the culture, I think that most teams will never be able to compete with the Boks. And I'm saying compete at the highest level, right? Of course, who knows, Italy might beat Springboks one day, but one day, right? Most of the time, South Africa will dominate rugby. I'm recording this in July 2026 before the Springboks play Scotland, and they've just beaten England. Even though some players are coming to an end, this generation of Springbok players might come to an end soon with, you know, some players moving on, a new chapter that's going to be written. The future of South African rugby is super scary. I've had the privilege to tune into some of the under-20 World Cup games, and when I look at the under-20s of the Boks, I'm 24 by the way, I can't believe that some of the players are younger than me. It almost hurts me. I'm like, wow, this guy is 19 and looks like he would absolutely destroy me. It looks like he's 30. You know, he's built like someone that you see in the street and you think he's 30. Crazy depth that the Boks have. And you see that the youngsters, their dream is to play for South Africa. So the depth, first of all, is going to be crazy, because even really good players might not make it for the Springboks, but they'll be in the B team, they might be in the C team, they might still be in the squad, you know, when South Africa play you know, a weaker side against another opponent, but that weaker side is still going to be stronger than the opponent's best side, if that makes sense. And the reason I'm making this video is just to give other nations, I suppose, a wake-up call, which is that you need to dial in on your academies, on the way that you talk about rugby in your country, the way that rugby is perceived in your country. You know, France, England, rugby is big in France and England, but it's not as big as other sports, whereas in South Africa, it's just rugby. Now, there is a huge football community. Of course, I'm not blind to the fact that a lot of South Africans really like football. Football is ultimately the biggest sport in the country, I believe, overall. But you just look at the future of rugby in general, right? As rugby moves on and goes towards the next decade, etc. I'm trying to see which countries can compete, which countries will be able to potentially lift a World Cup one day. And you know what, guys? I don't think France or England or the All Blacks or Scotland or Ireland or Australia or Argentina or even Georgia, because Georgia have a very good under-20 squad. They beat the All Blacks, but then they lost badly against South Africa. There's just too much of a difference. The level is completely different. The South Africans don't only play rugby for the sake of playing rugby. They play rugby for the legacy, for the jersey, it means so much more than just rugby. Wearing the Springbok jersey, from what I understand, is way more than just rugby. The history, everything in South Africa is geared towards, pride and wanting to be the best, and I really respect that. I really do. And I can't come up with the words to explain how to change this, because I think that it would be good, right? I'm sure that every South African fan listening to me right now would agree that it would be good to have other national teams on your level and create even better games. Now, I'm not saying that South Africa will stomp over every opponent and, just be better than everyone on every day. On any given day, anyone can probably beat the Springboks, right? If they put in the right ingredients. But it is tough, and it's only going to get tougher. So really, the point of this video is just to wake up other nations, really. It's just to kind of share my point of view, which is that unless other nations look at what the Springboks are doing and copy it, because you have to look at what the best are doing and try and replicate it if you want a chance at also rivaling with the best. And as it stands, the other national teams are not doing the right things to be able to compete with the Springboks. That is my humble point of view. And if you're a South African watching this, drop in the comments. On the recent video, I spent an hour sort of responding to everyone because there were some great comments. How does another country compete with South Africa? What does South Africa do that other countries aren't doing that I haven't talked about? Because unless this gets fixed, I suppose, unless other countries realize that South Africa are onto something, and the only way of challenging them, maybe in the 2027 World Cup or 2031, is going to be to change their game plan and try and do something that South Africa have never been able to predict or defend against, which is a big, bold claim. I think that South Africa will win. They're going to win 2027. They're going to win 2031, 35. Of course, there was a comment saying once you get to the latter stages of the World Cup, it's 50-50. I agree and I disagree. When England played Fiji in 2023 in the quarterfinals, it wasn't 50-50. At least it wasn't 50-50 with the bookies. When Argentina played New Zealand in the semi-final, that wasn't 50-50, at least with the bookies. Maybe South Africa, New Zealand in the final was as close as you can get to 50-50. But when South Africa played England in the semis also, I think most of the world expected South Africa to win, and they did, although England put up a hell of a fight. So I just don't think that it will be 50-50. I think that South Africa are clear favourites, and it scares me. It scares me because we anticipate this World Cup. I'm going to Australia in 2027. I cannot wait. And although I love the Springboks, I would just love for some teams to really go at them. And why not beat them? I also think that if a team beats South Africa and it's not South Africa that win the World Cup in 2027, it will do a lot of good to rugby. Now, South Africans, please don't disagree with me, but it would be an extremely unlikely scenario because I think that it's super likely that South Africa will win the World Cup. Talk about experience, talk about confidence levels, talk about, Rassie that just knows how the game works better than anyone. It gets to a point where whoever beats the Springboks, the coach will get sort of a statue made of it because it's become so difficult to do and so unlikely to do. And there's only very few examples in recent years of a team dominating the box and beating the box. I talked about Australia in 2025, right, last year. They didn't even dominate the Boks. I think the Boks were killing South Africa. The Boks were killing Australia in the first half, and then some magic happened, and then they let go. Maybe they just thought, "Hey, this is going to be another win," and it didn't quite happen. Anyway, food for thought. But the academy, the young players, the generations to come of young kids that want to represent South Africa on the international stage for the Springboks. There are going to be so many players, so many dangerous players playing for way more than just the match, playing for their country, playing for the legacy of South Africa, playing for their families, playing for the whole country. And no other team has ever been able to do the same thing and put as much importance on their national team's jersey than South Africa. We'll see. We'll see, boys. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe to the channel because I'll be sharing videos every single day. I love rugby. I'm sure you love rugby too, and this is why we're here. Bye-bye.